Ready to go. Whakaalofa atu ki atou tolu osi, ni sambula vinaka kia orana, kia ora, Māori, 10 Pacific greetings, warm Pacific greetings from very cold Glasgow. We would like to welcome you to this event. It is the last event that we have for this series and for the COP in all of our side event spaces. So we welcome you to this event, and we would like to introduce to you the Mana Moana, our Pacific Voices. This is a program that harnesses the creativity and the oratory skills of the Pacific to bring the reality of climate change from our shores to this COP, to the halls and to the negotiating rooms of this COP. Mana Moana, ladies and gentlemen, Pacific Voices is a collection of creative work. It is a collection of stories. It is a collection of our art from our shores in support of our negotiators that are here in the negotiations, and also in support of our leaders who have come a long way to be here. And so we bring the Pacific to you. I know that there are a lot of our audience are online back home very early in the morning, and I'm very happy to see Dr. Carlo is online, and I also saw a minute ago Nan. I'm sure Audrey is online as well. Ladies and gentlemen, as you know, it is nothing new. The Pacific Islands region is amongst the most vulnerable to the impacts of climate change, despite contributing less than 0.6% of the world's greenhouse gas emissions. We all know that the Paris Agreement commits to limiting our global warming to well below 2 degrees compared to pre-industrial times. We know also that the IPCC AR6 now states that it is unequivocal. Climate change is human-induced. The Mana Moana Pacific Voices spans Our Ancestors Speak, a powerful visual poem that is a call to arms for people across the Pacific and our globe. Our Islands Speak brings together 10 poems in a collection from 10 Pacific Island poets and merging Indigenous artists to create visual, moving, digitally enhanced offering poems handpicked by our very own special curator, Dr. Carlo Miller. Tēnā koe, Dr. Carlo. Supported by Aotearoa, this Mana Moana work is supported by Aotearoa in partnership with SPREP, and it is intended to amplify the voice of the Pacific people here at COP26. It is hitting all the right notes, and it is our duty and privilege to bring it back and let it be the last thing you see in a side event from our region. This is the inspiration that our negotiators need. This is the inspiration we've been waiting for. So this is the reaffirmation that we are not alone in this journey. We are here. We carry the hopes of our people on our shoulders. And when I say ours, it is the collective ours, referring to our negotiators. There are so few of them here, and so the work is twice as hard. So this work echoes through these halls. You can't see out there, but people are coming in and joining us here. I'd like to end there. Before I introduce Dr. Carlo, I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Tangaloa Cooper, and I am the Director for the Climate Change Resilience Program at SPREP, and we are in partnership with Aotearoa New Zealand to bring you the Pacific through our art form, through our voices, through our words. I would like at this point to introduce to you Dr. Carlo Miller, poet and Mana Moana special curator. Dr. Carlo, of Tongan and Pākehā descent, is an award-winning poet, mother, writer, activist, researcher, and just a fabulous, strong Pacific Island woman. She is the program director of the Mana Moana Experience, Leadership New Zealand. The kaupapa of this program is to vitalize and prioritize Pacifica ancestral knowledge in contemporary contexts. Dr. Carlo, welcome. Welcome to the last side event here at COP26.
Mahalo lelei tangaloa, and kia ora from Aotearoa, New Zealand.
For you.
I'm hoping the lag across.
Dr. Carlo, please share with us why the medium of poetry and digital art have been used to help amplify Pacific voices at COP26. Why is this medium important to help us amplify the Pacific collective voice at COP26? Over to you.
We come from orators and poets. Poetry is a medium that cuts to the bone of issues. And while we have a lot of scientific evidence documenting the facts, sometimes it's hard to reach the heart through all that dense, evidence-based academic text. But if ever an issue needed to reach hearts and minds and souls of people, it is this climate crisis. So it's been quite a privilege to harness a form that Pacific peoples are naturally predisposed to being good at and bring those gifts and our philosophy and our ideas and our ways of being to such an important issue.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Carlo. I have a couple of more questions. What is important about the human experience and connection to see, to hear, and to feel the voices of our people and the impacts of climate change and the custodian role that we play for the present and future generations of our Blue Pacific? And I'm not sure, Dr. Carlo, if you were online just before, but we had the amazing Pacific Youth Warriors in here, and they brought their voice in dance, song, and talanoa. And so I know that that resonates with you. Why is it important that people feel through words our collective call to arms of the impacts of climate change here in this COP?
We are all ocean people. We come from the largest ocean in the world and some of the smallest islands. And that means we know a great deal about sustainability. We've learned that over 3,000 years. And I feel we've got a lot to gift the world. So often we're perceived as vulnerable, and yet actually the whole world is vulnerable. All of us united are vulnerable. And this has happened, the way I see it, to us first. And it's happening in uneven ways all over the world, but to us so dramatically that for me, it's not a call to blame or shame, but a call to leadership. We are experiencing these events that are going to affect potentially to extinction the world over. I see that we're the canaries in the coal mines of climate change, and therefore it is our job with great clarity to sing that song of climate change. And we come from singers and dancers and poets and orators. And so we bring our best to COP so that we can show voices of leadership. The moral high ground is often spoken of, but I feel that's the booby prize. What we want is to continue to survive in the ways that we have for thousands of years. So we bring our knowledge, our knowing, and our gifts to COP, hoping that it will reach the hearts of those who are in positions of power to make a difference.
Thank you, Dr. Kano. I wanted to share the impact of the work of Mana Moana in the opening of the Moana Blue Pacific of space. Our Ancestors Speak was played, and it was at the beginning of this COP where everybody was anxious. People were already quite apprehensive about what the next 2 weeks would bring, and there was a lot of uncertainty, there was a lot of pressure, and people in the room, whilst excited about the Pacific space, were also quite anxious. And when Our Ancestors Speak was played, a calmness came over the room. And I think that speaks to the heart of why our words matter, because they are connected to our spirit as people, and to the collective and holistic and the big family. And just seeing the calm come over the room, it gave us a good segue into the beginning of the week. And throughout this week, Dr. Carlo, these works have been played, they have been used. Some of your words have been used in some of the statements. Some of your words certainly have been used in some of our side events and our interventions. And so I say thank you to you personally, because it did help me in my role here and also help my team. And as you know, we are here to support our people. They are the voices in the room, and we are the tautoko group behind them. I wanted to ask you, before we moved on, one other question, and that is, how do we ensure that this messaging and form of messaging is intergenerational? This wisdom is carried on. And I know that you know our people are orators. We come from orators. We come from the earth, and we know our place. And we roll in big groups of people who have common purpose. So I just wanted to hear from you in your craft. How do you think we need to work to ensure that the ihi of the work that you do and the message that we want to tell in how climate change is impacting us makes its journey from generation to generation in this art form? How do we do that?
I think the greatest challenge as Pacific peoples is to keep on being ourselves in a world that is doing everything it can to change us. We are people that have had deep communion with the ocean, relationships with our environment that are sacred and respectful. We understand the reciprocal flow of giving and receiving to each other, tending to the spaces between us. And although sometimes this is seen as the past, I believe it's the sustainable route into the future, reorienting to be part of the family of things. I can see that the way that history has shaped us arriving to this place, that there are large disconnects between the way our ancestors viewed the world and what we've inherited as the default way of looking at the world. But all around the world, there are these movements where people are reclaiming the genius of our ancestors and our ways of knowing. I see that the Pacific knowledge paradigms are in this finely woven basket that we offer to this collective problem. And there are other knowledge baskets that come from different cultures. This is such a pressing issue for the globe that we need everyone's way of thinking. So for us as Pacific peoples, it's around valuing our contribution that comes through our language, our proverbs, our stories, our values and beliefs that are connected to the environments that those ways of seeing have evolved in for thousands of years. And so I guess the challenges for us as parents, for us as ancestors to come, to pass that on in the most beautiful and accessible ways. So I do run a leadership program called Mana Moana that is based on 5 years of postdoctoral research to try and channel that ancestral knowledge to this contemporary generation. But I'm one of many who are committed to this work, understanding. It's interesting, your question, Tangaroa, because even just thinking about the next generation and the generations to come is a way that we've looked at the world for a very long time. So we don't have 5-year strategic plans. We're trying to make mokopuna or grandchildren decisions. There's just so much wisdom in Oceania's library. And I think as we dive into that and feel the power and the worth of it, and we offer it in these kinds of global contexts, then we're much more likely to swim with it and feel that power. And I'm so heartened to hear that the brave souls who came with so little positional power felt the power of who we are and brought that to this global stage.
Thank you so much, Dr. Carlo. I'm always inspired when you speak. And I just want to say thank you again for your words of and insight into these beautiful creations. I look like I'm looking down, but I'm looking at you because you're on a screen down here. I'm not looking at the floor. Thank you for bringing to life this body of work. It is a gift from the Pacific to the world, truly. I'd like to also acknowledge at this point the New Zealand government for their partnership and all of the creative artists that you have harnessed their mana and their excitement and their art into creating this gift that has strengthened the Pacific negotiators here and has brought our voice to the world stage. I would like to also acknowledge the team behind me here for staying the course, the team behind us in the Cook Islands and in Samoa. I thank Mana Moana, Storybox, all of the colleagues that you have worked with who have become friends and families to us at SPREP and to us in the Pacific and of whom we have adopted. The artists, the performers, the orators, everybody, Dr. Carlo, I thank through you for their contributions in creating this gift to the world. Ladies and gentlemen, we have for you 2 examples of these amazing works, and they will play. The first one is Our Ancestors Speak, and the second one, Our Islands Speak. So I invite you to sit back and enjoy this gift with the spirit that it is given. Whawhitaitele lava, o e tū lau kia koe, Dr. Carlo, moehawa pulotu. Thank you. Hello? Please bear with us as the technicians take another look at putting that up.
What is above be lowered. What is below will rise. The islands will unite, and we will stand and be strengthened.
We come to you from the cyclone seats on sinking sands. In warming waters, coral cemeteries forming around us, damaged reefs that surround us.
We look to the sky, carbon dioxide concentrations rise to a new high, 148% over the pre-industrial line. The UN Secretary General says, we stand indeed at the edge of the abyss.
But we do not just come parrot the facts you already know, back to you in poetic prose. We navigate our way across the digital divide, seafarers and ocean people, hitching our sails and ourselves with virtual magic, technology, art, poetry, oratory. Traveling many miles in a global pandemic so we can arrive and be here without being here.
We will not come to you speaking numbers. We will not be stuck in the small cages of spreadsheets. We come accounting for generations to come, knowing our blue bonds are to the ocean, earth, and sky.
We come to speak with ancient tongues in our mother languages.
We come in the spirit of Maui. Come see, Uki ka Maui. We are but small populations from small places, challenging those much more powerful than us.
Ko Maui, tine tine ahi.
But we come from the largest ocean in the world, and that ocean has taught us a thing or two about life.
Islands taught us what we know. Islands teach you brutal lessons, but they become loving if you learn to live with them like the ocean.
On our island farms, we do not rely on the monovision of monocrop. Diversity is her natural inclination. We only pour organically derived pesticides on her skin.
When we nurture her, we know we nurture ourselves.
We know halape vai, kako vai. There's no rain now, but there will be rain.
We know oanga o manu, rain is a blessing.
In the Pacific where we come from, The word for tree, rako, ako, ra'o, in 42 of our languages is also the word for medicine. Their primary purpose is to keep us alive.
Yet every year the world loses 10 million hectares of forests.
When councils and lawmakers pick and choose, declare climate crises, but the trees still lose, tree protection can't make it through solar systems that we cannot imagine our way out of.
We know motu e waa e taha o kuongo katoa ia ki he fu'u akau. When one branch breaks, the whole tree feels it.
Those of us putting our bodies on the line, we are the ones arrested and fined, forever defined as troublemakers, lawbreakers. In a progressive democracy like mine, justice needs to be redefined.
Self-interested, self-serving, lobbyists pay, fake news sway, even what science has to say. It is the striking school children who lead the way.
Ka tupu rupe rupe teia tumurako. Let this tree grow well. May the descendants in our genealogy thrive.
Ka tupu te mokotaro me arawei I te vai ora. Young taro shoots will grow if they meet life-giving water.
Leaders of the world, e konui ko hua o e ho'uli ko ua. Plant the taro stalks while there is rain.
He toa mau rākau, he toka puringa, he toa mahi kai, he rākau, whakamarumaru.
A leader holding weapons becomes hard, like a rock. But a leader who grows food is like a sheltering tree. Let us be sheltering trees for the next generation.
We are ocean people, Tangaloa, Tangaroa, Kanaloa people.
On this blue ocean planet, there is only one boat deck. The whole of humanity is on that deck together, whether we like it or not.
We are like creatures caught in weeds, entangled in these waters.
E wai e taia te kupinga whiwhiwhi.
Who will loosen the entangled nets?
Leo penga e fili le po ai talatala I le ao. The fishing net that is entangled during the night can be unraveled during the day.
Whetuiaki a kupenga tutui. Let us be the mixing of fishermen who can cut straight through entanglements.
Ai e teki tengaruki papa I tō mokotua. Do not wait for the waves to pound your back. Take action now. E mua!
E o ke au mele mele a me papahana o mo.
Enter the feminine and elemental forms of heaven and earth. We have been waiting for you.
This climate crisis awakens in us the relationships we have always known. Our relationship with all that is and with all that was.
Our relationship with all that we cherish and dream and aspire to become.
Our relationship with all that we are, all that we need.
Our relationship with ourselves as a species in an evolutionary moment.
We look and we see that we do not have a climate crisis, but a crisis of relationship.
Between humans and all the co-created, all that we are made of.
Our kupuna tell us, ho'okahila au he mihi.
The first medicine is forgiveness.
Our kupuna tell us, ulua e kevelina a ke aloha. Loving is the practice of an awake mind.
Loving is the embodiment of spirit. So let us awaken and let spirit inhabit us again.
Ke kala aku nei au ia o e pela no hoi au e kala ia mai ai.
I unbind you from this fault, and thus may I be unbound from it.
The world as we knew it may be ending, but let us not fear the remaking of another one.
Fola e fala, kaya lea e kainga. So let us roll out the mat for the family to talk, us, our human family.
Hikiko te waka, hopo, 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 kilunga, alo, 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 kimua. We have to uplift the canoe. We have to hop on the canoe. And we have to paddle the canoe together to reach our destination.
Tini e wata mai o pukai taringa. He tumu e wata mai o pukai taringa. Utaku karagi a kare tapa. Ua tika I te kauariki o te rangi. He ngā pātua no mai rai o poa. Utaku kura nuia. Te tango. He te manawa. O taku kapuanga. Tangaroa I te kura. Te atua o taku ui tupuna. Te ariki ka tupu. Te ariki ka tere. Te ariki ka mau. No o te wakarangi roa e. Kawai e! Ayo!
E te atua mana nui, a ka rongo mai. E te atua mana nui, a ka rongo mai. Tangaroa te atua, te ui tupuna, korongo matane, te papanui. Te tuatini, tangaroa e. Tangaroa te atua, te ui tupuna, korongo matane, te papanui. Te tuatini, manotini e. Hi!
Time turns on itself, the mana of calling your name lost on those who forget. You birthed generations, you crossed oceans. I would breathe you to me, e tangaroa e. In the same way newborns inhale their mothers the moment they leave our bodies, in the same way whales crossing oceans time their travel to the budding wildflowers on distant shores. I would see you in the tiny curves of the pupu snail shells, TANGAROA, golden against the damp stones after a heavy rain. Now a luxury beachfront property stands above those stones. Antonio says there's a clear moral and economic imperative. Antonio says we are in a climate emergency. When Antonio tells me it's a code red for humanity, I know. There. In the spaces between earth and sky, I know that people have become small gods. They create, they destroy new life. TANGAROA. The next stage of the creation-destruction cycle is here. And when you recover, renew, rebirth, try not to miss us too much.
Tasi and Kai and Tai and Moana Nui and Vasa and Tahi and Leek and Vaitui and Dao and Wansol Wara are names for you that translate into creation stories and song maps. Praise our blue planet, one world ocean. Praise our transoceanic past, present, and future flowing through our blood.
Will voices of reason drown in fallen gullies of political power, buried under generations of mistakes? Mistakes made by stagnant governments, private pyramids of hidden agendas, and entitled greed. Indigenous knowing bulldozed again and again. Will the secrets in this land reveal the true meaning of the resilience of water? Regenerate faith in our ability to humble ourselves, not before nature, but as nature. Ko au ko koe, ko koe ko au. I am you, you are me.
Rest now, he papatuanuku. Breathe easy and settle. Right here where you are, we'll not move upon you. For a while, we'll stop, we'll cease, we'll slow down and stay home. draw each other close and be kind, kinder than we've ever been. I wish we could say we were doing it for you as much as ourselves, but heiaha, we're doing it anyway. It's right. It's time. He iti noiho, a small offering. People always said it wasn't possible to ground flights and stay home and to stop our habits of consumption, but it was. It always was. We were just afraid of how much it was going to hurt, and it is hurting, and it will hurt and continue to hurt, but not as much as you have been hurt. So be still now. Wrap your hills around our absence. Loosen the concrete belt cinched tight at your waist. Rest. Breathe, recover, heal, and we will do the same.
This is not the end of civilization, but a return to one. Only the water insisting on what it should always have, spreading its liniment over infected wounds. Only the water rising above us, reteaching us wealth and remembering its name.
My name is SIENI. My mother is SIENI. My grandmother is SIENI. We were all born in the same house. We all swam in the same sea. We all grew taro in the same swamp. And we all drank coconuts from the same plantation. We all stood on the same table when the king tide swept into our house. And we all climbed onto the same roof when the floodwaters came into our home. And we all waved goodbye on the same plane when we were forced to leave our island. And we all cried when we saw our house in South Auckland, surrounded by a sea of concrete, with neighbors we did not know, who could not pronounce our name. I am SIENI. My mother is SIENI. My grandmother is SIENI. And this here, inside me, is my daughter, SIENI. But she will never know our little home. She will never know the warm embrace of our sea. She will never plant taro in our swamp. And she will never rip the husk from coconuts from our plantation. She will never be we, and we will never be sheep.
Nikutu taha, motu tu tokotaha. As hurricane birds flock through skies, the cyclone has arrived. The moon is the sun is the moon, as night comes in the blink of an eye. Haulama mea o tangi. Don't cry, don't cry.
Maunga, there is truth in the eyes of children and in their mouths.
Masina, masina, o whea lui ai, o te alui tua o le maunga, o te lawhili lo ai.
It's a nursery rhyme for those of us who never had nurseries, never needed them either. For those of us that learnt, even as we susued the susu of our mama, that even the moon, the powerful bright moon, can hide behind a maunga and be safe. For those of us that learnt that the land, the maunga, the sea belonged to us, and we belonged, not once, but always. You can steal and buy and sell and buy and sell and buy and sell, but blood calls to blood and bone to bone, and the land of my ancestors will always belong, not to that Palangi concept of me, but to we. This is the truth from the mouths of children.
Protect Pacifica, the youth advocate. Nurture the land and sea, it is our trade. Develop nations, be mindful of our faith. May your energy be clean as you create.
As you create.
Iwa kala hui Hawaii.